The morning sun slowly rose over a beautiful city, casting a soft light over the simple houses and narrow roads that stretched far into the distance. Life in this city moved slowly and peacefully, with everyone going about their daily business. But for Sarah, every day had become hard since her mother passed away. At just 13 years old, she had lost the one person who always made her feel safe and loved. Sarah and her father, Mr. John, used to have a quiet, happy home. But everything changed after her mother's death, leaving a void that seemed impossible to fill. Mr. John, feeling overwhelmed by his deep grief and the immense responsibility of raising Sarah all by himself, decided that it was time to remarry. He believed that bringing someone new into their lives would be the right step, someone who could help take care of Sarah and bring some warmth and happiness back into their home, which had felt so empty and cold since his wife's passing. 2 months later, Linda arrived with her daughter Jessica. Linda was tall and striking, with a warm smile that made everyone think she was kind and caring. At first, she seemed perfect, acting like the ideal stepmother by telling Mr. John how much she already loved Sarah and how she would take care of her just like she would her own child. Jessica, her daughter, was the same age as Sarah, and at first glance, they seemed to get along well. They both attended the same school, Bright Stars Academy, and everything seems to be falling into place as hoped. But soon, after the wedding, things began to change. Linda's friendly smile started to fade, and her true nature began to show. Sarah was the first to notice the small but troubling differences. How Jessica always received new things while her own needs were ignored. Linda would buy Jessica a new school bag every time, while Sarah had to make do with her old torn one. Jessica's school uniform was always fresh and new, and she went to school every morning with a lunch box full of snacks and food. Meanwhile, Sarah's uniform was torn and tight, and she often left for school with an empty stomach. At home, Sarah's life became even more difficult. Linda made her do all the chores, sweeping the floors, washing the dishes, cleaning the house, fetching water, and cooking, while Sarah worked hard scrubbing the floors and taking care of everything. Jessica would lounge around, watching TV or chatting on her phone, never helping out. Linda would often say, "Sarah, you need to learn how to take care of your home. Jessica is delicate and I don't want her to suffer." Sarah worked non-stop from the moment she got home from school until late into the evening, often so exhausted that she couldn't even think, let alone find the energy to study. But despite everything, Sarah was exceptionally brilliant. She was the top of her class, excelling in every subject, especially mathematics and English. Her teachers admired her for her hard work and often praised her in front of the other students. This achievement deeply irritated Linda. She couldn't understand how Sarah, the girl she treated like a servant, could still perform so much better than her own daughter, Jessica, who always had the best of everything. The more Sarah succeeded, the more Linda's resentment and frustration grew. One evening, after Sarah had finished her chores, Linda called her into the living room. "Sarah, I've noticed you've been doing well in school," Linda said, her voice laced with fake sweetness. Sarah nodded, unsure of where the conversation was going. "Yes, ma'am." Linda's eyes grew narrow as she spoke. "Well, I don't want you to think that just because you are doing well in school, you can slack off at home. Jessica is your sister now, and you need to help her with her schoolwork. I don't want her to feel like she's been left behind while you get all the praises." Sarah knew her stepmother wanted her to do Jessica's homework. Jessica had always struggled with her studies, and unlike Sarah, she rarely paid attention in class. "But I need time to read too, ma," Sarah said softly, her voice lowered. Linda's smile faded. "You will do what I say, Sarah. If I hear any complaints, you will regret it." From that day on, Linda made sure Sarah was kept too busy to study at home. After school, Sarah had to finish all of her chores, help Jessica with her homework, and sometimes even sell oranges at the market until late in the evening. Linda was trying to sabotage Sarah's chances of success in school, but Sarah was determined not to let that happen. Despite the chores and the endless tasks, she was resolved to keep up with her studies and prove herself. Sarah found ways to cope with her situation. During school hours, she focused intently in class, absorbing every bit of information her teachers shared. She used every spare moment at school to read her textbooks and work on her assignments, fully aware that she wouldn't have the opportunity to study at home. Her teachers began to notice that despite the hardship she faced at home, Sarah's performance never wavered. She consistently delivered top-quality work, and her dedication stood out even more in the midst of her challenging circumstances. One day, the school made an exciting announcement. They would be hosting a major event, the annual state quiz competition. Students from schools all over the region would come together to compete in mathematics, science, and general knowledge. The top-performing students will be chosen to represent the school in this prestigious competition. The news created a buzz among the students who were eager to prove their skills and bring glory to the school. When the names of the selected students were posted in the notice board, Sarah saw her name at the top of the list. She had been chosen to represent Bright Stars Academy in the competition. Her heart swelled with pride, but she also felt a twinge of fear. How would Linda, her stepmother, react? Jessica had always wanted to be selected, but her grades weren't good enough, and she hadn't made the cut. When Linda found out, she was furious. That night, as Sarah was washing the dishes, her stepmother stormed into the kitchen. "How dare you embarrass me like this?" Linda hissed. "You think you are better than my daughter, don't you? Always showing off with your grades. You will not participate in that competition. Do you hear me?" Sarah froze, her hands shaking. "But ma, I didn't." "Silence!" Linda slapped the counter, making Sarah flinch. "From now on, you will not go to school. You will stay here and finish your chores, and you can forget about that competition." The next morning, while Jessica was getting ready for school, Linda made Sarah stay at home. She forced Sarah to scrub the floors, fetch water, and sell oranges at the market all day long. Sarah was heartbroken. She had worked so hard to earn her spot in the competition, and now it felt like all her dreams were slipping away, leaving her with a deep sense of frustration and helplessness. But Sarah wasn't one to give up easily. On the day of the competition, she managed to sneak out of the house early in the morning, well before Linda and Jessica woke up. She ran all the way to the school, her heart pounding in her chest with every step. When she arrived, her teachers were surprised but relieved to see her. They had been puzzled by her absence, but now they were just glad she was there. Sarah was the school's best hope of winning the competition, and they were ready to support her in any way they could. The competition was intense. Students from prestigious schools across the state were in attendance, and the questions posed were challenging. Despite the pressure, Sarah remained composed, her keen mind treating each problem like a complex puzzle. As she answered question after questions correctly, the applause from the audience grew louder and more enthusiastic. By the end of the day, Bright Stars Academy was declared the winner, and Sarah was named the top student of the competition. Standing on the stage with the trophy in her hand, her face radiated with pride and joy. a true testament to her hard work and determination. As part of her prize, Sarah was awarded a full scholarship to complete her secondary school education and study at any university of her choice in the country. The news spread quickly throughout the town, and soon everyone was celebrating Sarah's remarkable achievement. When Mr. John heard about his daughter's success, he was overjoyed, but his happiness turned to fury when he learned about Linda's action behind his back. Confronting Linda with his voice trembling with anger, he demanded, "How could you do this to my daughter? You treated her like a servant in her own home while you pampered Jessica. Sarah is a brilliant girl and you tried to destroy her future." Linda, overwhelmed by the guilt of her action, broke down in tears. "I am sorry," she sobbed, her voice choked with regret. "I didn't mean to hurt her. I was just jealous." Her tears flowed freely as she tried to explain, her words filled with remorse and sorrow for the pain she had caused Sarah. Sarah watched as her stepmother cried, her emotions conflicted. She had suffered so much under Linda's care, but seeing her like this, so broken, made Sarah feel something she hadn't expected: pity. "I am sorry too, Sarah," Jessica said quietly, stepping forward. "I bullied you. I didn't help you when I should have. I was wrong. Can you forgive me?" Sarah looked at her stepsister and her stepmother, both of them waiting for her response. She thought about her mother and what she would have wanted her to do. "I forgive you," Sarah said softly, "but things have changed. We can't keep living like this." From that day on, living in the house changed. Linda and Jessica made an effort to treat Sarah with kindness and respect. Mr. John became more attentive, making sure Sarah's needs were met. And Sarah, despite everything, continued to shine. She went on to complete her secondary education and earned a scholarship to study at the University of Lagos, where she pursued her dream of becoming a doctor. Years later, as she stood on the graduation stage, receiving her medical degree, Sarah looked out at the audience and saw her family, her father, her stepmother, and Jessica, all cheering her on. They had come together, finally, as one big family. The end. Please like this video and subscribe to my channel for more interesting videos like this one. See you in my next video. Bye.